I feel like the later and later I do this show, the more and more people actually like check in and watch live. Not that most of the streams don't happen live, but it is kind of funny actually. Like I realize that like I guess people are like chilling out, they're sitting on their couch, they're vegging out, they put their kids to bed or whatever it is, and then boom, they're like,
hey, man,
hey,
that's what it's all about.
Let's check out what is going on here. Who went live? What is going on? So welcome to Sales Tales. So I was in this house. Now, in this particular episode, the individual that I have on here, Mr. Christian Dunwoody, actually works with people who are continuously in houses. So that's pretty neat. I actually don't think that I've had some marketing people reach out to me and like they really want to come on, and it's like it doesn't jive, it doesn't fit. But Woody, that's a whole nother thing. So tonight I have a guest here who is better at golf than I am, who is better at golf. And he's a remarkable individual. I've known him for a couple of years now. We've done a bunch of events together in different places around the country. And I'll let him introduce himself. Woody, who the heck are you, man?
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be one of the chosen ones of all the marketers that reach out. We know all the marketers are always trying to get in front of as many people as possible. So I appreciate you having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here. I am, go ahead.
I just said, dude.
So my background is in serving the trades, as you mentioned in the bio. Thank you for that. My whole career has been working with plumbing, HVAC, and electrical contractors. Prior to doing what I do now, I was in recruiting. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that businesses have is finding great people. They figure out certain things, they know how to fix things, but finding other people that they can build a culture with and pour into is really difficult. Did that for many years and then transitioned into the company that I've worked for the last 7 years at Scorpion, helped leading the home services division and the marketing space. Obviously, as you mentioned, there's lots of marketers out there, but it's a crowded space. It's a tough space. And so we're naturally trying to do the best that we can to serve our clients well. And my job is to help make sure that whenever we bring clients on, that the expectations that they've got are realistic, that we can actually pull those things off, and that those expectations are met on the back end. And in a lot of ways, that's very similar to what our clients do, right? They have to set very realistic expectations, and they have to follow through with that on the back end and set the right promises. So that's what my job is at Scorpion.
Yeah. And so you started out kind of pounding the pavement, right? I mean, you were out there grabbing bit. Now you're in charge of the business development team now, right? Is that right?
I help lead the business development team. Yes. Alongside huge team of leadership. Yes.
Yeah. That's cool. And let me ask you this: how have things changed since being in the field and now leading people? Tell me about that, man.
Man, that's been a dramatic transition over the time of being at Scorpion. There's a moment where you come to realize that, hey, you've gotten good at something and you can sort of do it with your eyes tied, with your eyes closed, with your hands tied behind your back. But the most fulfilling thing is really being able to show somebody else how to do that and how to scale it. So coaching is what initially drives you to want to go into leadership, right? Hey, I want to coach people. I want to teach people how to do this. And then when you step into that world, you realize that that's only a small portion of what what going into leadership really looks like. So there's been lots of transitions there from my point of view. And then, with Scorpion, there's been lots of transitions with Scorpion over the years, and we're pioneering lots of really exciting things right now. So positioning that in the marketplace is always fun, and it's always sort of ever changing. And I'm spearheading both of those things right now. So
yeah. So Yeah. So yes, and so there are two different roles. Coaching, right, and managing are two different things. And it's fun. It's good that you said that. I'm really glad that you said that, because managing, right, I mean, you can be a great, and you can teach people how to prospect. You can teach people how to do things. But the reality is that managing people, right? And it's some of that's like the clock punchy stuff, and I don't all that. There's operational things in there, and it sucks, because you got really what you want to do is you want to coach people to be amazing sales individuals. You want to coach them to do amazing things, but unfortunately, you work for a company that has a human resources department, and really, I mean, it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass. Right? I mean, it is.
Can be. Yeah, it can be. I think when we talk about managing people, right, I think a lot of that comes down to holding people accountable, and that whatever that may mean, there's different areas of their role that you have to hold them accountable. Sometimes it's, hopefully it's not too much HR related stuff. That's a different conversation. If it's HR related stuff, you may have a different set of challenges. Sometimes it's administrative related. Sometimes it's, personal development related. Hey, this person's doing well. I think sometimes this is the most challenging, right? Where, hey, this person's doing well. There's no reason necessarily to say that they're not doing well, but that they can do more, and you want to encourage them and motivate them to do the best for themselves, which naturally yields better results for the team. So I think that there's different challenges there. When you talk about managing, I really, my takeaway there and my thought is, how do we just hold them accountable?
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic that is probably not related to this podcast at all, but it is something that I think about on a daily basis, having to lead people. So there's different facets of leadership, and I think that I would say to anybody who's a sales rep currently, okay, service or sales rep, I'd say anybody who's listening to this and you think oh, I want to go lead people, really, really look. No, I mean it. Really Amen. Look at what that means. You better have a drive to really want to change people's lives and make an impact and make sure you're responsible for those people. It is your job. And I don't know how you're along this journey, but man, now that I've been, years now, I've been in this leadership game, and let me tell you something. I love changing people's lives, but it weighs on you. It weighs on you in a way that you probably didn't even realize that it could. So, but enough of the serious stuff. No, I think people want to hear the serious stuff. Christian, so how in the world did you were in recruiting, and then you got into marketing? How's this all happen?
Yeah. So, I was 18 and knew nothing, thought I knew everything, and I didn't have a clue at the time. This was about 10 years ago. People still used Craigslist for various things, and including jobs from time to time. So I found this ad on Craigslist that offered me $15 an hour, which came out to about $1,000 every 2 weeks. And that was more money than God at $18 an hour, right? I thought I had just struck gold. And then they told me they would offer me commission. And I had no clue what commission meant. I didn't know what that was. I just knew that they were going to give me $1,000. And if I was good or worked hard, then I may have an opportunity to make more. So I worked really hard for this company, and I just so happened to be good at it. It was a recruiting role. It was a sales role for a recruiting platform that was dedicated to the trades. It was a subset of websites owned by a company called My Open Jobs. And does Jinsey know what Craigslist is? Great question. Yeah. And if they don't, I don't encourage you to go to Craigslist anymore for those that may be watching this, because Craigslist is not a trustworthy platform like it used to be. Maybe it is. I don't know. I digress. But yeah, so the role was owned, the company was owned by a company called My Open Jobs, and I was reaching out to companies trying to help them find, source, and recruit different plumbing roles, HVAC roles, from technicians to salespeople, master licenses, all the way up to superintendents, project managers. And that was both for the residential sector, the commercial sector, industrial, and facilities maintenance. So I worked with lots of different companies at different scales that were hiring on small levels and really, really large levels. That pursued into some relationships that I created in the franchise space. And Scorpion works with a lot of franchise organizations. And so that naturally created some overlap in network. I was very blessed to have a very good friend named Pam Harper. Shout out to Pam Harper, who made some introductions for me, and organically got brought over to Scorpion after a few years in the recruiting space. And I've been at Scorpion now for 7 years. So when I started at Scorpion, I was fairly young. I started at entry-level position, cold calling, and doing the calls that if there's any business owners listening to this, they're like, oh God, he was one of those. Yes, I was. And I did it with integrity and I did it with love. But yes, I was one of those people that had to cold call you and try to get you to consider Scorpion as an option.
But you got a cold call. That's just,
Amen.
I mean,
you got to do it.
That's just the nature of the game. Not everything is given to you. But so you've worked with hundreds of different contractors. Yeah. I'd be interested to know some of the more interesting encounters you've had with contractors.
It's funny because when I thought back to this and I go, what are some of the stories that really stick out to me? It's interesting because there's actually a lot of vulnerability in my sales calls, and there's probably some similar emotions for some of the other guys that you have on here that are in the home and they're dealing with somebody that's freaking out, right? They may have an HVAC issue or a plumbing issue, and they're freaking out about that. In our environment, there's a lot of vulnerability in these sales calls because these business owners don't know exactly what to do. And Scorpion doing marketing, this is a world that they're not always super familiar with, and they need our help. They need help from somebody. And so when they come in, they know that they feel vulnerable. They usually don't like that. And oftentimes these guys have been burned by people in the past, right? So what do
you mean vulnerable?
Vulnerable in the sense that if they spend the money and it doesn't work, it puts their business in a scary position, right? Yeah. And so they're giving that money away, knowing that it could hurt them, and they need it to work. So they need to trust that person to do right by them. Mm. So that's what I mean when I say vulnerable. So they come in scared, vulnerable, and definitely, gun shy, right? They come in a little nervous. They've been burned before. And so whenever we think about interesting encounters, it's usually situations like that where they come in guns blazing thinking, I don't think you're actually going to be able to follow through with it because nobody else has. And so what'll happen is they'll we'll come in and say, hey, as consultants, we want to build a plan for you. So let's talk about your goals. If you partner with us, what's your vision? What do you want to do together? And they'll say, oh, well, let me just tell you about my dream, right? I want to go from 1 to 5 million, or I want to go from 5 to 20 million in 1 year. Okay. And we build out those plans and we say, hey, we work with lots of companies that size that want to do this similar level of aggressiveness in terms of growth. Here's the plan, and here's what it takes financially to do that. And then they fall out of their chair and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Are you kidding me? It's like, okay, well, let's work backwards here for a second.
Wait a minute. So a prospect said it's too much money?
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So then we say, okay, well, let's go back and figure out what's the baseline here? Where did you come up with these numbers that you told me that you want to go from 1 million to 5 million? Where did 5 million come from? Well, I didn't think that you guys would actually be able to do that. And so I just said 5 million because it sounds good. Okay. So there's no calculation there. So it's actually quite fun because we get to have these moments of, holy cow, okay, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. And then we get to cradle them and say, hey, yeah, that's okay, but we still love you and we can still help you. And here's a better solution. And let's just try to work this back around.
Interesting. I'd be interested to hear of, like, you know, a success story on the other side of that, where you were like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost. And then it cost that much and they fell out of their seat. And then on the other side, like a few months later or a year later, they're like, wow, like, holy moly. Like, I can't believe.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah. And honestly, I have an amazing story. I've got so many amazing stories, but there's one that sticks out to me initially. And I'll give a shout out to my good friends at ATEMP, the family owned business in Portland, Oregon. They had been with several different marketing companies. And when we sat down and had this initial conversation, also shout out to Marissa Leon, being their marketing manager over there. She's a great client and great to work with. When they first came over, we sat down and said, all right, hey, listen, if you want to do this, you've got some serious players in your market, right? You've got people, shout out to Travis Smith at Sky Heating and all the people in the market that take their brand very seriously. If you want to do this, we've got to do this the right way. And so when we looked at the numbers, you could tell, I could actually feel the weight of the shoulders from the business owners all the way from Texas. It was so intense. And so finally they come through and they say, hey, we're going to trust you. We're going to take a plunge and put our faith in you. Don't let us down. And it's funny that you made a comment earlier about when you change people's lives, it weighs on you. It weighs on you a lot in that moment. You're like, well, this is the time, right? The pressure is on. We better follow through. Today, they are one of the largest organizations in Portland. They've seen massive year-over-year growth. They're a huge case study. We've got videos from the owners talking about it, and it's those are the moments that are really rewarding as a salesperson, right? When you put your faith not only in yourself by saying, hey, I know that I've got to trust myself that I'm building this plan the right way, but you're putting your faith in your company to follow through in the promises and expectations that you're setting. And then it comes to fruition. The business owner does what they need to do. We do what we need to do. And we see the results. Man, there's really no better high.
Yeah. You know, I can sense a little bit of, I don't want to say apprehension. That's the wrong word, but, you know, like if you market in a specific geographical area and you have like, you know, you kind of like, let's say you're like, well, somebody's on the west side of the metro area, someone's on the east side of the metro area, so we can kind of work with them or whatever. But like, do you ever run into conflicts of that? Do you ever run into like where people like bitch at you because it's like, dude, like, oh, like we're supposed to be exclusive with you and you got like, how do you deal with that, man?
Oh man.
And yes. let me just, I gotta clarify because I don't know if everybody really understands that. So because of the nature of what Christian does, they're a tremendous marketing company in the trades. They have probably more customers than almost a lot of the major players use his company Scorpion to do marketing. And so what happens is if you're a client of Scorpion in a specific geographical area, the marketing company has to kind of tap dance around the geography, because if they represent one company in an area, like you have X amount of companies that you can really like take on in a geographical area until it becomes a conflict of interest. So anyway, go ahead. I just want to explain that because I don't know if everybody really understands that.
Yeah, and first of all, that's great context to provide. And I think that, first of all, this is a conversation that gets brought up all the time. It's a sensitive subject in our space. And naturally, different marketers will try to position themselves against other marketers using this as a tactic. Naturally, they'll try to say, oh, well, we'll give you exclusivity, or, they shouldn't take on more than X number of clients. And that number is completely arbitrary, right?
Yeah. But do you think that they're being like disingenuous when they say that? Do you think that they actually take on way more? They're just like in it and they don't actually follow through with being exclusive, or what?
Here's what I'll tell you. You and I are part of the same networking groups, right? word gets out pretty quickly when you make bold claims like that and don't follow through with them. If you say you're only going to take on one client in Denver and you take on 10, somebody's going to find out, and then you're done for, right? So we see how word spreads. And so I would say, you know, and not just that. Here's something that I say on sales calls a lot, and I mean it, because one of the things that I love about our space, being in home services specifically, is that nobody's really out to get you. And that's true in the marketing space too. Nobody wants to do wrong by you. So if they're going to make these claims, it's because they've got some belief in what they're doing and they've got some integrity around it. And so they're going to back that up. Usually I would say that they do. But when you ask me, do we run into that environment in sales calls? Yeah, all the time. And I think the challenge is this. First of all, one of the things that they don't consider is that not every company has the same set of goals. You've got some companies that'll call us and they'll say, hey, I only want to deal with a certain type of customer, right? I do high-end work. That's it. That's all I do. I don't want to tailor to every customer. I want to tailor to an upper echelon level of customer, somebody that is not, you know, price motivated. They are motivated by value. They're motivated by peace of mind and all these other things. They want to know that we're going to be warranty backed, that we're going to be insured, that we've been in business forever. That's my customer. Then you've got other companies that will call in and they'll say, hey, listen, I'm just trying to participate. I'm trying to get new customers in the door so that I can see healthy year-over-year growth. I want to have a presence in this market, but I'm not necessarily trying to dominate. Those two companies, really, if you're running their marketing the right way, shouldn't overlap too much, because the second company can't afford to go after the same customers that the first company is going after. And really vice versa, because the first company doesn't want to leverage internal resources to go after what the second company's after. So oftentimes we have to take that in consideration. Plus, obviously, there's no such thing as 100% market saturation. One company will never truly own HVAC for one metro. It's just not possible. So whenever we look at it, we go, hey, as soon as we get to a point where you start adding on more customers and it becomes a conflict of interest, or it impedes our ability to give our existing customers the most competitive advantage, then we'll lock markets out. And we did that. We've done that many times in the past, but a lot of that's changed over the years with private equity having come in and bought customers that, you know, and brought certain things in-house or what have you. All of that landscape has changed.
So this is a very hot topic, and I think that this is something that, like, you know what, people tend to sling this around and they talk about it in a very disingenuous way because they have ulterior motives. But this podcast has no ulterior motives. Okay, I'm literally having conversations with people who are involved with sales, and I want to find out more. So let me ask you, with the amount of roll-ups and the amount of consolidation that's happened, right? And look, it's a natural part of doing business, right? At some point in time, how has that affected, or how do you deal with that in regards to, obviously, like, you know, RFPs and competitive landscape and everything else? And I again, this isn't a business building podcast, but you're a smart guy, and I really want to hear your perspective. And I think other people want to hear your perspective on this, because I think it's important. I think it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, here's the thing. I think that, first of all, when the private equity sector first started coming into play, these questions became super, super, super prevalent and super common. Hey, what's this going to look like? All these companies are just getting bought up, and then everything's going to get monopolized. You know, what's that going to look like? We're only going to have a subsection of these businesses to go after. And I honestly don't think that there's any stock in that. The people that sold their business, they're turning around and starting new ones. They're waiting for their non-competes to go out. They're coming up with new businesses, and we're going to see a whole new wave of this happen again 5 years down the road. So
right, but in the current market, what I'm trying to get at is, like, do you have to pivot, or do you stand strong, like, in regards to having to deal? And I know that's a tough question, but I'm saying, like, I think it's changed everybody, right? Like, in a way, everybody does different business a little bit differently. Manufacturers are getting squeezed a little bit more. Everybody's getting squeezed a little bit more. Do you guys really feel that because you're such a premium sort of, product, so to speak?
Well, I mean, here's what I'll tell you. This is a good time to be in the trades. It's also a good time to be in marketing for the trades. Marketing has gotten super competitive. It's gotten super expensive. And so people are naturally spending more and more and more because it takes more to do the same with that we used to be able to produce with less, historically. It is just the nature of the beast. So yeah, we have to hold firm. This comes down to serving the trades with integrity, is telling them what's realistic. What is it going to take to be able to produce what you want? And if you fold, then you lose because the client's not going to get what they want. They're going to churn. People talk about it on Facebook, and then it's a whole thing. So yeah, we have to hold strong.
Yeah, I like that. Serving the trades with integrity. I really like that you said that. Okay. With that being the case, and with the landscape it is, and you guys are holding strong or whatever it is, what does the future look like? Like for, your company? And let me, it's a two-part question. I'm going to ask this first part now. What does it look like?
What does it look like with specifically with what?
5 years from now, what does marketing look like? What does your company look like? Is it changed? Is it steady? What is it?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, Scorpion is seeing explosive growth, not only because the trades and marketing for the trades is seeing explosive growth, but also because we're doing some really awesome and exciting things right now. Part of which is our new Service Titan partnership. Shout out to Service Titan and all of our friends over there.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so that's changing the landscape a lot right now. That's changing the marketing landscape. That's changing the competition and really making things more complicated in a lot of ways, which is a great thing because for our clients, it makes it a no-brainer. And so when you ask me what things look like 5 years from now, between the integration and the partnership with us and Service Titan, the level of data compiling that we're doing is next level. And so between that and all of the evolution that we're seeing with consumer trends, we've got AI, generative AI coming in. So we're seeing people behave differently. We're seeing video and different components of video and AI coming into the equation. And all of those things are going to drive the future of marketing. And we're going to see the way that people engage, find, research, contractors evolve. We're going to have new and improved ways of content. We're going to have hyper local and hyper specific content. Things are going to get more intense, but it's really exciting stuff. And honestly, if you don't have data to help you drive that ship and or steer that ship and drive the narrative around what it's going to take to do this the right way, you're going to be operating blindly. And so when we talk about 5 years from now, explosive growth, everybody's jumping on board because if they don't now, they're going to wish they did earlier because data is king and data-driven technology is going to be everything in marketing in the future.
So tell me about this. Most of us in the trades cannot go a day without getting a message in our inbox that says, do you need extra leads? I can guarantee you 50 preset appointments. Like, I mean, what is going on? What is this stuff?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's funny. Here's what I'll tell you. First of all,
I got to add context for people who may not know. So people that are currently working in the trades, quite literally any leaders, their inboxes are full with these quote marketing gurus who come at you and they promise you that they'll fill your dispatch board. That's basically what they say they're going to do. They're going to fill your dispatch board. They're going to promise you 50 new leads every single month and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to figure out like what is it? Are these aggregators? Who are these people? Like what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, so here's what I'll tell you. and this will actually speak true to a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, because a lot of the people that listen to this podcast go into the homes every day and deal with the type of customers that I'm trying to produce for you. It's not that difficult to make the phone ring. Contrary to popular belief, making the phone ring is not that hard. What is hard is to make the phone ring with the right person. So when these people call in or they send you emails and they say, hey, we can send you all these leads. Yeah, some of them absolutely are white labeling some lead aggregator. So they're using some third-party company and they're slapping their own name on it and saying, hey, I can drive in leads for you, and they're just charging you $5 more a lead than what they're paying for it, and they're probably selling that lead to 3 other guys. There's ways to do it, right? And they can call them leads. But what most people come to us for is not just to make the phone ring, but to get the phone to ring with the right type of person. And the example that I use is, and we say that it's a plumbing company. One person will call and they'll say, hey, Everett, I've got kids in the house. I'm freaking out. I've got to get baths ready for school tomorrow. I've got no hot water. I live in Highland Park. Please come help me. That's a great call, right? So theoretically speaking, from a marketing standpoint, that's a win. But even in Highland Park, even in the wealthiest neighborhoods of Dallas or whatever metro you may be in, you'll still have the second type of person that's going to call and say, hey, Everett, I've been looking at DIY videos for the past 3 hours. I've done half the job already. Can you sell me the part so I can finish it? Or can you give me a discount because I did the first half and come out and finish the job? Or, whatever. I see they're only selling the part for like $36 and you guys are selling it to me for $75. Completely different type of customer. You'll get very cheap-minded people even in wealthy areas. So whenever you're asking about, hey, who are all these people? What's up with all these emails? Yeah, there's tons of people that are out there trying to drive in new customers, and it's really not that difficult to do that. There are tons of people that need your service, and a lot of them are not the type of people that you want to work with.
Talk about losing. I want to hear a loss from you. I want to hear like you lost a bid, you lost a job, you lost something. This is what I want to hear. I want to hear you quoted something. You tried to get a prospect. They said no, and you lost it. And I want to hear this story. This is what.
Yeah. So there are a couple of times in my career where I say a couple of times. That sounds very arrogant. There have definitely been plenty of times in my career where I lost business, but sometimes, and you'll know what I mean when I say this, sometimes it doesn't always surprise you. You're like, oh man, I felt okay about that one. But there was a couple of things in the back. When I think back to the sale, it's like, I probably should have hit this objection. I should have doubled down there. There's only so many times where it hits me where I really didn't expect it. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, no, this guy is absolutely moving forward.
Can you get a little specific? You can leave names out, but I'd love to hear that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to get specific, and I will leave names out. But this is a recent one, and so you'll hear some passion from me right now because I don't agree with this decision. First of all, so here's a challenge, right? And this is a challenge for everybody in business. We've got clients that we ask, hey, go write about us online. And if you go look us up on Google, we've got great reviews. There's a couple of platforms, though, that are not always the easiest to navigate. And
Yelp? Oh, go ahead. Just go ahead. Keep going.
Rhymes with help. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, by the way, this podcast has one of the 4 rules of this podcast is if you're offended, you're the problem. So you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Well,
yeah. So fair enough. And anybody that goes and looks Scorpion up on Yelp, go look at the hidden reviews. I'll just throw that out there, but I digress.
They're good at it.
They're good at it, right? So, and you do have that option to click hidden reviews. But I go through a pretty in-depth process with this particular company. It was a painting company and painting and remodeling company, and you go through the process of, hey, I don't want to just understand your business goals. Yes, I want to understand your business goals, but I want to understand personally what you're trying to accomplish here. What does this mean for you? You'll go through all of the work that you need to do from an SEO audit standpoint, an advertising standpoint, and for the listeners, what that may mean is that I'm building out all of the goals for every different area of their business as it relates to growth, and showing in great detail how we're going to get there. You provide customers that say, "Hey, I was in your position. I trusted Christian. I trusted Scorpion. It worked out for me." They go, "Great. Love to hear those stories. I like what I'm hearing. I can afford this. This all sounds good. I'm going to sign." Over the weekend, they go do some digging on the internet. They see some reviews that contradict the stories that they heard. And so, what I'll tell you is that in that moment, I unfortunately lost the sale. I did lose the business, and it was over something that that you can't always control. It's something that we're navigating. Don't get me wrong. We're working on that on that particular platform. But you lose in those moments. They go, "Hey, I've been burned before. Somebody else is telling me I may get burned again. I'm scared of that." And it's ironic because Scorpion's got 15,000 clients and there's like 40 reviews on Yelp, right? So it's such a small sample size, but they take that and it hits them deep. They get skittish, They run off, and it's just part of sales, right? Sometimes there are just things that are outside of your control that you've got to persevere through. And usually what happens is they go into the direction and they end up coming home later, right? So we'll see what happens with that company down the road.
So you've listened to this podcast before, and I have one question that I ask every single person, and I ask them. So for people who are in service and sales, it's a little different because it's very personal, like they are in people's houses. But in your case, you're working with people and it is personal, right? It's their business. What is one sales call, sales prospect, sales situation, customer that you worked with that like changed your life, that lives with you today, that you think about, that you actually carry with you where you go and sort of shapes your path?
I have a handful actually of clients that hit me to that level. ATIP being one of them. Shout out to them. They really were pivotal for me earlier on in my career. Another one that is actually recently no longer a Scorpion client, not because of a lack of results, because of some other amazing things on their part. But it's a company called Epic Plumbing. Shout out to April and their family. But Epic Plumbing out of Pearland, Texas. One of the things that really, really hits home with me is when I know that this is a small, vulnerable family business. They've been in business for a long time. Their market around them is changing. So they've always operated the same way. They've always had a happy, healthy life because they've done what's worked for them. And what they didn't see happening around them is all these changes. And so they come to me scared, afraid, unsure of what to do. And then the reason that they hit me deep though is because they're small. So ATIP is a little bit larger. And what that really means is that nobody has the money to lose, but small companies really don't have the money to lose. They have
they're sort of gambling. I mean, it's a necessary gamble, but they've got to do it. So how did this affect you? Tell me more. I'm really interested.
So the impact that it had on me is that it made me realize what it is that I'm really doing for a living. What is my calling? How does that tie into the big picture? Who do I want to be long term? What's my calling here to the trades? And how does that look today? And the way that it looks today is that people get screwed by marketing companies all the time. And I think a lot of it has to do with not setting the right expectations in the sales process. I'm serving and doing amazing things for my clients because I'm...
Hang on, Chris. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm specifically with this company though. What affected you so deeply about this company that you carry it with you?
Well, what changed for me, the reason that it impacted me so much is because I knew that they were vulnerable, and I watched their lives change. I watched them not only continue to double their business, but I watched them rebrand. I watched them get new warehouse. I watched them elevate their lifestyle, their financial status. That I watched them go, not literally from rags to riches, because they definitely weren't in rags, but I watched the dramatic lifestyle transition, and I realized that was the impact that I could have.
Wow.
And that not only changed the business owners, but all the technicians they worked for, their families.
Wow. See, that's to me, like, that's kind of why I'm in this business, right? That's awesome. And you can go to bed at night and be like, wow, I changed this person's life. Like, literally changed their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just them, sometimes their children. Oftentimes their children, the people that work for them, all of their families get impacted, because people make more, commission when they have better customers coming in the door, when they have better tickets. Everybody eats in that scenario, or everybody suffers. And it's a huge moment of success, and a very fulfilling feeling. Say that 10 times fast when it comes true.
You travel a lot.
Yes, sir. Quite a bit when conference season happens anyway.
Yeah, you travel a lot. Tell me about that. Living in hotels. I mean, a lot. I mean, you travel a lot.
Yeah. I travel quite a bit, especially during conference season. And then with partnerships, we've got specific travel that happens there. I think that as an earlier guy, I mentioned that I started at Scorpion quite young. It was amazing. Right. It was the best thing ever to get to travel, to go to Vegas for Service World, and to go to Orlando and all over the Phoenix and LA. And it was nothing more that I could have asked for than to be able to travel all the time. Now I've got a wife. You've known me prior to having a wife. You've known me prior to having a baby. You've seen that transition in my life.
Yeah.
Now
how's that transition? It's got to be more difficult? You don't want to be away from your daughter. I mean, it's got to be a lot harder, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's hard. You feel a certain level of guilt, right? But there's also no better motivation for sales than to have a baby, right? And to have a family. So for me, yes, I don't want to go away. I definitely don't lollygag on these trips. I go, I see the people that I have to see. I have the meetings, do the speeches, speaking engagements or whatever. And then I head right back home. Yeah.
I guess that's got to have changed for you. Like the way that you look at things being away from, I remember actually, it was like maybe a year and a half actually when we were seeing each other probably like 4, 5, 6 times a year. And I remember there was one month where I was gone, dude. I mean, it was like, there were like 4 trips. I was gone. I was just gone. Yeah. I was gone for like, 4 days here, 3 days here, 4 days here. I was like on a plane, then I was back, and I was on a plane and I was back, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's changed for you, but you have to kind of embrace it. Hopefully you have a good support system that, kind of gives you the, understands, that. Is there a world where you stop, you kind of, you delegate, or you kind of, because you're the face, you kind of have to just be there?
Well, I mean, I think that fortunately we've grown quite a bit at Scorpion. So we have the ability to spread the love to other people that have shown themselves as authoritative in the space, that are able to represent us well. For a long time, we were we're still a fairly small sales organization, but we were much smaller historically. So there's only a handful of people that we really could rely on ongoingly to go to these, and we've now expanded. So yeah, I'm able to delegate others to go to these shows now, which is a huge blessing, and I'm able to be a little bit more selective, which is amazing now that I've got a family to be able to make that call, and fortunate to have leadership that supports me in it. So now it's a matter of, how do I navigate it so that it's the best thing for the company and it's the best thing for the family?
Yeah. Do you, so let me ask you this. I'd be curious to see because you deal with contractors, and sometimes contractors can be a little rough around the edges. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah. No kidding, right?
Have you had any funny encounters? Have you had any, you've been in somebody's business and some crazy shit happened?
Let's think about this.
It's funny because I was talking to you. I forget who it was. It might have been Jason Walker. I actually forget who it was. I've had a bunch of guests, and he said that he literally visited a business, and like the install manager and like one of the installers, like the install manager and the service manager, literally fist fought in the parking lot. Like they had a disagreement, and it was like a 3 p.m. fight, like in the schoolyard, like in the outside, like. Everybody's out there. It was crazy.
Holy cow. Yeah. I shout out to Jason Walker. I don't know that I could beat that particular story. I've seen some really awesome things. I've seen some really cool cultural things that happen. I don't know about crazy stories.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. You ever want to see what a great culture looks like? Reach out to Texas Medley and do a shop tour.
Oh, come on. I know Tech. I visited him about a month or so ago. I had seen him. What's cool about Tex, man, that he's got like ping pong and billiards and video games set up in his warehouse for his guys, and super cool, man. I mean, like if you want to attract people and build a cool culture, like, do that. He has like food out for
all the time. That's what I'm
like he's
about.
like, yeah. It's like honor system. Like, hey, listen, this cost me $1. You pay $1. Like, and it's like honor system. Grab it and leave $1 in your little jar right there. It's just
it's so awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
He does a party every spring right before the summer, and then another party right in the fall right after the summer to sort of show his appreciation for all the hard work that naturally happens in the middle of the year. And the guys there all the people there, not just the guys, the gals too. Everybody there is really amazing. You can tell they love working there. That's having a background in recruiting and working with the people that are on the out in the field every day, the salespeople, the installers, the service techs. Seeing them thrive is really rewarding for me. And if you just walk into their shop, you can see that everybody's really happy to be there. They're excited to show up to work every day, and that's really awesome to see.
Speaking of walking into shops, this is how I actually met Texas for the first time. For those of you that don't know, his name is not really Texas, but it is Texas. Anyway, his name is Texas Medley Heating and Air here in DFW. He walked into, I was working at Rescue Air, which is what brought me to Dallas. And he walks into the shop, literally him and his business partner, or him and somebody. And they were like, hey, we see your trucks. We see what you guys are doing. We just wanted to talk to you. We just wanted to see what you guys are doing. Like literally no agenda, no nothing, bro. And they had nothing at that time. I don't even know if they developed a brand. I don't even know if they had a little tiny shop, like nothing. And he was just like thinking about like, how can I make my tiny little company bigger? And he came in and talked to me and Josh for like an hour and a half. And we just sat there and we just talked to him about, and dude, you know me, I'm all about culture. I'm all about how can you build a good culture? How can you build a good organization for that people want to go and work for, right? And we all work together as a team in order to do this. And he came in, bro, and honestly, bro, like I hope in some little way, like selfishly, like that my 1 hour conversation in some way had like an impact on, on whatever he's decided to do, because across the whole country, there's like 4 or 5 companies like and this many fingers that are like, hey, that guy is building something really, really cool and special. And I hope that I'm a part of something like that. Like I really do. And I'm going to work, and I'm going to continue to work towards that, like every day, all day. But yeah, it's super cool to watch.
Yeah, it really is, man. And one of the things that I love about Texas, and it also ties into the concept of serving with integrity, is authenticity. He is one of the most authentic people. And I think 100%. That when you're talking about having integrity, which is also another amazing word to describe Texas, that's part of it, is just being authentic, being as real as possible. People in the trades expect and demand that, but they also appreciate it when they see it. And he's just so amazing about that. So yeah, when you ask me what are some of the crazy things that I've seen, I will say this was pretty funny. I had a client recently tell me that, and I'm not this, just to be clear, but it was quite funny. He said that I was pushier than a fat kid in the cake line. And so that was like one of the first moments that I like got thrown. I was like, oh my God, you caught me off guard with that one, my man.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
For the business, right?
I like that. I like that. I like that line. I will say, yeah, you do have a tenacity. You're a go-getter, and ever since I met you, like 3-4 years ago, I've seen that. I think there's something about, there's certain people, they're just driven, and I don't know if I think it's a learned behavior. I think you learn how to be driven, but you do it it's almost like it's an internal like voice in your head, and then you externalize it by practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like you're not born. Like I hate people who say, like, anybody who listens to this, and like, because I get a lot of listeners who are like, I don't even know them, and they're like, oh, sales tales, this is cool stories about sales. Anybody who listens to this and like thinks that like sales is like, oh, I have the gift of gab, I'm just really good at talking to people, and that's going to make me lots of sales. Like, wrong. Yeah. Wrong.
Yeah.
There's 75,000 things that go into it. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's so true. And, so everybody's got their own moment in life where that switch flicks. And I think it's a huge mindset shift. Anybody that's ever been poor, right? That's a huge motivation. When you're struggling, when I found my sales gig, I was living on a mattress on the floor in some apartment in the ghetto. And I knew that I wanted better for my life. And when you're eating ramen noodles and just figuring it out, those are character building moments, right? And there's a moment where you realize, hey, in order for me to do great things, I have to operate differently on a day in and day out. With every conversation, with every interaction, I have to operate at a certain level. And that's that you're right. Once that happens and once you live that out, it becomes like a muscle memory, right? And it really becomes part of who you are. That's what makes salespeople great, I believe. I think that's part of it for sure. And I appreciate the recognition, brother.
Can you talk about that? Like, how did you end up on the floor, ramen noodle, like on a mattress, like basically living in a little shack or in the ghetto? How'd that happen?
Yeah, I was 18. And just had no clue. I've been serving tables and just doing dead end jobs. Didn't have the drive or the motivation to go to college. I tried. That's not true. I signed up for one class and didn't give it any effort because it was not something that I was interested in or motivated by. And so I woke up one morning, and I call it the slap in the face from God, the reality check, whatever you want to call it. But I woke up one morning and looked around. I turned on the light and saw that I had a TV sitting on a nightstand, and next to that was a mattress on the floor in some ghetto apartment in Irving. And it's interesting because I had a flashback. Actually, it was like a moment in like a movie where you in your head go back in time, and I saw myself as a child being asked what I wanted to do when I got older. And I didn't know the answer as a child, but I knew that I envisioned myself as a businessman, and I had no clue what that meant, but I saw myself in a suit, dressed nice, having important conversations, whatever that may mean. And fast forward, I then come out of that and realize, okay, well, whatever that vision is that I had of myself, this lifestyle that I'm living now is not going to get me there. I've got to figure it out. Within 3 weeks, after lots of Craigslist searching and interviewing, I found the first job recruiting for plumbing and HVAC, and all.
So how did you end out on your own? Like, how did you end up? Like, I came from a very similar situation. I mean, I was 18 years old. I'm in my own apartment, like living on the floor kind of thing. But how did you end up? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, why'd you move out, or was it like you had to, or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. Part of it was I had to, and part of it was self-induced. If I'm being honest with myself, when you look back, I had a split home and was pretty rebellious in my latter teenage years, as are most. I had a hard time finding my way, had some family that was willing to help me out, and just kind of, I couch hopped for a while till I ran out of options, and it was not an easy lifestyle as a as a teenager, as a younger man, but it taught me some survival skills. Finally, I found a place that would, found a buddy that had an apartment that would let me rent it, and found somebody else to rent that room with me so that I could split that room with that person. And so there was 2 mattresses on the floor, just to be clear, but that's the other part I didn't mention. I was just looking at my mattress. And that's how I found my way there. And at the time, I'd actually thought I had made it, right? I was like, hey, I have my own place now. I'm not living on somebody else's couch. I've got a key to my own apartment, and not my own apartment, but at least a place that I can call my own. And it's funny, whenever you get rid of the self-limiting beliefs and choose to see things differently, how much can happen.
Oh man. It's funny. It's funny how, it's kind of, you're saying it was like self-induced. Like you wanted to get out on your own. You wanted to do your own thing, whatever it was. You had a shitty home life, or whatever it was, split home life. I don't want to say it was a shitty home life.
No worries. If you're offended, it's your fault, right?
If you're offended, you're the problem.
Or you're the problem. That's what it is. Excuse me.
No. It's true. I like the survival skills part because it reminds me of when I had my own apartment and I was just like a wee tot. It was very different. I was a wee tot. It was really different. My mom actually almost died. And then anyway, my parents moved. It was like a health thing. Anyway, it was so stupid. But anyway, I ended up staying like 100 miles away and kind of trying to rough it on my own. Same thing, waited tables, had to kind of try to figure it out on my own. And there's something really powerful about being out on your own, like at a young age when and a lot of parents today, like they would never want that. I would never want that for my kids. Yeah. I would never want that for my kids. But I'll tell you, shit, bro, the things you learn and how resourceful you become. And when those cupboards are bare and you're like, 50-cent ramen noodling it because you're looking under the couch cushions for money so that you could, and then you're looking for more couch cushions because you got to get at least a couple bucks of gas to get you to where you're going. Oh man, nothing will wake you up to life the way that kind of lesson will, man.
But you're swiping your debit card and you're hoping, because you've got overdraft set up, so you're hoping that third swipe goes through because you're like, I know that I'll make enough money to make up the overdraft fees later.
Try it again. Try it again. It's gonna work. It's gonna work the third time, bro. But you know what? Everybody I've seen, every successful person, pretty much, that I have talked to has had some sort of ridiculous struggle. Yeah. And there's got to be a parallel. There's got to be some parallel there.
I go out of my way to talk to people that have had that story where they struggled when they were young, they persevered, they became successful, and then they had children. And one of the things that I wrestle with today is, okay, I wouldn't consider myself to be truly successful yet, but I will be. Amen, brother. And when you become successful, how do you provide all the things that you may not have been able to be provided as a child to your children, but still making sure that they're instilled with the work ethic and the motivation that you had? And you realize in that moment through self-reflection that you only had that through the struggles. You're not growing while you're being blessed. Right? You're growing through the hard times, through the challenges in life and the perseverance that you develop through those moments. So if anybody's got the answer on that, DM me. I'd love to hear it. But that's something that I struggle with today is, what does that look like at scale whenever you start having children of your own and you become successful? You don't want them to go through the same things.
What is success? What is successful? Yeah, I look around my life. I've talked to a bunch of people on here, and let me tell you something. Sure. Did I go to college? Sure. I went to college for, I don't know, semester here, semester there, try to put it together. But honestly, I just like learning. It really wasn't about like going to get like a degree. And the reality was that I got a better education working in places and really getting the knowledge. I don't have an MBA. right? Like I don't, right? Like I think that like if you hustle and you really commit yourself to learning, bro, you and I know we read all the time. We listen to books all the time. I didn't have to go to college to read the amount of books and the amount of audiobooks and the amount of podcasts and the amount of self-development that I've done to get myself to where I am today.
Yes.
Okay. I did that. You did that on your own. And and like, bro, I have a ridiculous chip on my shoulder, like my whole life, and it never goes away. And I thought at some point in time, just like you, that chip would go away. And you just said something. It set me in another path, Christian. So I'm sorry. I'm going to just keep going here. You said, I'll be successful one day. You know, one day you'll be successful. Guess what? No, you won't. Because when you get to that place that you thought you were going to be successful, like, when I get there, that's when I've reached success. Guess what? Nope. Now there's another place you got to go to get to success, because you never get that self-actualization. I will tell you what, I had a very brief college class. This is like the only thing I ever learned in college. And it was a marketing and advertising class. It was ironically, it was a marketing and advertising class. And we talked about, was it Maslow's pyramid? Well, whose pyramid is it? About like, it's like safety and security, love and belonging, right? Like those things, the building blocks of life that you're supposed to have. And at the top is self-actualization. And one of the things that he said, smart dude, he was like, you probably never get to that self-actualization. You never get to that place where you're like, hey, this is exactly where I'm at the end. You know why? Because then you're dead.
Yeah. I mean, hey, amen. I think that there's always the fine line between having confidence and being self-affirmed that you're happy with what you're doing, but also being always motivated and driven towards the North Star of always wanting to become better, always wanting to improve. Couldn't agree with you more. You'll never really get there. That was one of the things that my mom taught me when I was little. Is if you think that you're ever going to just get to a place in life where you're there, you're wrong, because there's always a bigger and greater thing. And if you stop, like you said, you may as well consider yourself dead. You've got to have something that you're passionate about.
Well, some people do, and that's called complacency. And then you're complacent, and guess what? Things go bad. So Bryce says, I guess it's an equal sign, or knowledge does not equal experience. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Knowledge does not equal experience. Very good, Bryce. That is you're right. Knowledge does not equal experience. I know a lot of book smart people who are complete morons in the world of life.
Yeah, that's for sure, right?
Yeah. So, dude, this has been an amazing conversation. And you know what I've learned through this whole like experience of interviewing people and getting underneath the surface of like some of the surface level stuff that like a lot of different podcasts get to. One of the things, and I think that's why a lot of people have gravitated towards listening to this, is because like I try to get as real as possible. And one of the things I've really learned is that and I think this is why like a lot of long form podcasts go longer. Like they go to 2 hours, they go to 3 hours, because I do feel like I don't get, like, my guests don't even like really like open up and really like the juices don't really start flowing until about 45 minutes in. Like that seems to be like the pattern is like at 45 minutes in, everybody starts to, the juices are flowing, the creativity's going, and then it's like good to go. And then it's like, but I understand. I'm like, well, you know, I'm going to keep it to an hour. I did an hour and a half, I think, a couple of times. I did one that was 2 hours and that was it. But anyway, I digress. Dude, great conversation. Christian, before we end this whole thing, tell me something. What's on your mind? Did you have something you wanted to talk about? Did you have something you wanted to say? Did you have something that's eating at you? Or you could just tell people where to find you, how to contact you.
Well, I will say that one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that it's been way too long since we played golf, so we need to go play, because I'm pretty sure that comment that you made about me always beating you may not be true. My game is not quite as good as you're making me sound, but hey, it's time to go check again. And thank you so much for having me, brother. Such a pleasure. We've talked about this. We've talked about making it happen for a while now, and sorry that it's taken so long, but we were able to make this happen, and I would love to make it happen again. I'm sure that there's going to be more and more exciting sales stories as things continue to evolve in the marketing space. Anybody that's got questions about marketing, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can also DM Everett. He's got all my contact information. Feel free. But we're here serving the trades with integrity, and love doing it with my buddy Everett here.
Bryce happens to chime in here and say, Christian's a humble guy. He's all that, though.
I don't know about being all that, but I appreciate that, Bryce. Appreciate that, my brother.
I do want to address something that needs to be addressed. So the last time we actually went to go play golf, I brought you a gift, which was a Makita drill set. And this is absolutely crazy. True story. The freaking drill set got stolen out of my car before I could, literally minutes before I went out to my truck to go get him the drill set, and it was gone.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh, man. How crazy was that?
Yeah. I was like really upset about it. I'm like, I cannot believe that somebody stole this drill set out of my car before I was able to give you, and then you whooped my ass on the golf course. So that was cool.
Well, hey man, no worries. Shout out to our good friends over at Supply Smart. Raphael got me hooked up over there, and so we are rocking and rolling.
They divested.
I do know that.
There is no Supply
Smart anymore. Yes,
which is absolute bonkers.
I know, man. That's where we met originally, is when you were at Supply Smart. So RIP, I guess I should say, to Supply Smart. But shout out to my good friend Raphael. Shout out to Catherine. All our old friends. They're great people, and they did hook it up with a Makita set. So I'm good to go now. No worries, man. But that was a crazy story. Yes, for whatever bastard that stole your that broke into your Jeep. Jeeps are it's a rite of passage. You don't lock your Jeep. So anybody that breaks into Jeeps, it's like stealing from babies, and there's just that's extra shameful.
Dude, great conversation. Okay, so guys, you can get with Chris. If you're in the home services business, any home services, whether it's roofing, windows, siding, doors, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, at least if you're looking at a marketing company, please call Christian. At least let him get the chance to at least show you what they do. Even if you don't use him, he's a great resource. He'll give you some great information. I don't plug people on here. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I don't sell anything on here. No, this is like my promise to people, is like, I don't sell anything, but I will say that, like, I support people and I love people. And I will say that as a person, Christian is like a top-notch human being. I've grown to literally love this guy. Like, I so enjoy his friendship. Dude, awesome conversation. And bro, I hope you keep crushing it. And yeah, you got to invite me to a golf outing.
Man. Let's do it. Thank you so much for that, brother. Thank you so much for the personal endorsement. Much love to you. So thankful for your friendship. Thank you for having me here, and look forward to seeing you on the golf course soon.
No doubt, brother. All right, man. Have a good night.
Man. Have a great one. See you. Bye-bye.